So I've decided to submit a video for my leadership profile interview. Um, and just to give you a little bit of a background, I attend a church and volunteer at one called Seacoast. It is a what some would consider a mega church with multiple campuses. My wife and I attend one in Western North Carolina in the Asheville area. What I did is um, I chose one of the pastors that we have at the church. He is our online campus pastor. Um, with the digital age and the things that um, churches are improving on, I thought his leadership role in the church was very important. So that's why I chose him to do his interview. So without further ado, here is his introduction. Um, I'm doing a video interview with our online campus pastor. This is Pastor Ryan Scott. Um, so, just if you want to give us a little bit of background about as far as how long you've been with Seacoast, how long you've been in your leadership role,
Sure.
and what you do there at the church.
Gotcha. Currently, I oversee our online ministry. December, I will have been on staff for 15 years, and in that time, I've served in a variety of roles. I got my start on staff as a part-time worship leader at our Somerville campus, and in 2014, I came on full-time. I was over our small groups and local missions for a little while, became an assistant campus pastor. And then in 2018, I was made a campus pastor overseeing two ministries. Number one, our McClellanville campus, which is our smallest campus. It's in a little coastal town of about 500. And so I was simultaneously overseeing that campus and our online ministry at the same time. And so obviously in 2020, when COVID happened, many churches learned the importance of online ministry. We've been doing it for a while, but obviously we put a lot more priority on that online ministry as well. And so about a year and a half later, 2021, I handed that McClellanville campus over to another pastor, and I went full time just overseeing our online ministry. Since I took the online role, we've grown from about 3 to 4 thousand online attendance per week to averaging about 13,000 a week. We've made investments in a broader digital team, brought on an online producer who's exclusively focused on that and supporting our new podcast, and made increases in our social media presence and focus there as well. So, and then I've got a digital marketing manager that works for me on our team as well. So that kind of rounds the team out.
Okay. As you can see from his introduction, he has many years of leadership within the church and very good leadership skills, being able to move from one position to another and carrying on multiple roles within the church. Next, I asked Pastor Scott to define leadership and how he saw leadership. And you can see here in this clip. How do you personally define leadership?
Mm. Uh, Leadership, I would define it as influence. Um, it doesn't really have to be more complicated than that. Everyone has leadership in some way, shape, or form because everybody has influence over others. Um, I would also just I'd say that leadership is an opportunity to serve. I'm not the kind of command and control. I'm gonna stand off and bark orders from far away. I want to lead from the front lines. I want to be on the front edge of the ministry efforts that we're a part of. And so, um, one of the other ministry areas that I really enjoyed that's kind of stayed with me is when I was over our local missions years ago at the Somerville campus, because I would say my favorite part of leadership is really just the one-on-one interactions with the people that we're ministering to. We used to get a lot of calls and people knock on the door that are on the street or strung out on drugs or, whatever their situation might be. And just having the opportunity to meet them and support them in some of their darkest times was also one of the most rewarding things that I've been able to do. And so any opportunity that I have to do direct ministry with someone is very rewarding for me. And so it's honestly a challenge for me because the larger we get and the more I oversee a growing ministry, the sometimes less connected I feel to the people that we're ministering to. And so I see that as a challenge, but I always kind of try to keep that in my roots.
So one of the things that I like that he said, as far as his definition of leadership, was how he is here to serve um, as a leader, and I think that brings up a good point. Makes me look back and think on Matthew 20:28, where Christ says that he came to not to be served, but to serve. And I think that's one of the great aspects of a leader. He's also taken on the exact same aspect as Christ did in that situation. Uh, Next in our interview, I asked Pastor Ryan about who he's currently discipling. So he first mentions a gentleman on his team named Gabe. He's one of the producers. And whenever I asked him about the discipling of Gabe, he immediately went to Gabe's personal life, discipling him. He is a young gentleman, new in his marriage, new to family, and he's going through a few personal struggles. And so Pastor Ryan is currently helping him, discipling him in some personal avenues, but also in the workplace, in some of the production aspects of the team. Second, Pastor Scott mentioned discipling his kids. He's got three children, two girls and one boy, a beautiful family. But he said that he wanted to kind of increase their discipleship. And he said most recently, him and his family, the way that they end every evening is they gather around in prayer before the kids go to bed. And they kind of ask uh, everyone, what is something that we can pray for you about today? And then they all pray together before the kids go to bed. And I thought that was a uh, very good thing to do as a father, because your leadership role doesn't necessarily have to happen in the church or in the workplace, but it can also happen at home, inside the family. So, a lot of respect for him, for the way that he's doing that. So next, I asked him about what kind of tools he uses in his leadership role, being the online campus pastor. What are some of the things that he does? And you can see here where he describes what he calls tool fatigue.
I have to think, what's honestly funny is I most often talk about experiencing tool fatigue at Seacoast. It's been a year or so since this was the case, but it used to feel like we would introduce a new tool on staff, a couple new tools every year. And it just got, okay, one more tool we have to learn, and I started experiencing tool fatigue. Um, so I really just prefer using Teams and Outlook for email and trying to stay away from some other tools. Like for in the past, we used Slack for a while, and now I'm back on Slack just as a connection to a support group for a company that we utilize called Sardius, and that's just their chosen tool. But we used that tool for about a year and then decided it wasn't working for us as a company or as a church, and so we got rid of it. But
You know, and so moving on from that, um, the next question that I asked him was as far as how does he handle a problem as a leader. He gives a good example of a recent problem that they had on his team. You can see that here. How do you admit and fix a problem in your leadership?
mm, I've had conversations with our team recently that even a situation that happened just a couple of weeks ago. So the nature of what we do is very technical, and we've got our production tools and cameras and signal flow and all that kind of stuff. We use a company called Resi for um, our broadcast streaming. That's the company that their equipment and servers kind of compresses the video signal to make it, easy enough to share online and send to all of our destinations and stuff. But anyways, a particular technical issue we were running into a couple of weeks in a row, and we have a Monday morning 9:30 a.m. debrief call where we're supposed to be able to share whatever issues we have. And Caitlin, the girl that works with me, is my dedicated online producer. And so I shared this issue we were having um, in the debrief call because she and I had kind of talked about it in passing, but I didn't follow back up with her, and I shared it in this call. Well, as a result, another guy that she reports to thought it might be a particular issue, and our director of technology kind of got frustrated because he said, "I wish y'all had brought this to our attention sooner," and it got kind of tense and blown out of proportion because Caitlin then responded, said, "Hey guys, it's not what you think. It's really as simple as turning this device on a few minutes earlier, and Pastor Ryan wouldn't know that, but if he had come to me first, I could have explained it. It's not a bigger issue." So it was an opportunity for me to say, okay, like um, I need to go to her first instead of the broader team because she knows the technology that we're using more intimately and closer, and what's going on day in day out. And so I had the opportunity to kind of tell her like, hey, listen, nothing. I never want my leadership to be making your life harder, and so thanks for pointing that out. I will make sure to address any of the issues that we're having with you first, and I'm happy to adjust my process, to make it easier. So that's just the most recent example to me that like back to what I think I was saying earlier, that it's been a challenge for me as our ministry has grown, um, to trust my team more to handle the challenges that we run into, and instead of looking at or going to an external team that I used to rely on. Um, but the more I trust them and the more they succeed in what they're doing, the easier it makes my life anyway. So I feel like I've made enough mistakes in life in general that I don't have a hard time admitting when I've messed up and just saying, okay, yeah, I'm happy to adjust. I'm happy to do something differently. So I try to make that known with all the people that I work with.
And he so you can see that he's learning how to handle different problems on his team and how he's moving forward. But when it comes to problems and issues, one of the things that him and I discussed also was um, a good aspect is when you have a team member as a leader. Um, if a team member is going to bring you a problem, uh, before they bring you that problem, you have them bring you two solutions uh, to the problem, and it gives them an opportunity as a leader um, to help them kind of think on their own feet. Um, I had a leader like that as well. Um, he would challenge me to, bring him a few solutions if I had a problem, and he would next coach me on what would I think he would choose as an answer, and then he would allow me to do that. And then he said if it didn't work, go back to the other option. And that was an opportunity for me to be able to handle certain issues on my own without always bringing a problem or an issue to him. He was training me to be a good leader in the future, and I had a lot of respect for him for that. Um, Next, I asked Pastor Ryan about what kind of books he was currently reading. And one of the books that he said he just recently finished is How to Prevent Leadership Burnout. And it's written by one of the gentlemen that actually works at Seacoast Church, Chip Judd. And Chip's a very, very knowledgeable a man, and he's a very, very good pastor at our church. So I'm kind of interested in possibly reading that book myself. Another one that he also recently read is Emotional Healthy Spirituality. Um, and he said that it really opened his eyes to some of the things that he had going on in his own life, in his personal life, not necessarily in the leadership role, but in his spiritual life. And he said he really, really enjoyed that book. Um, so the last question that I finished up with is not one that was on the paper, but it's one that I thought was a good question to ask. And you can see here the question and his answers. If you had to pick a great biblical leader, who would you
Hmm.
choose and why? And if you had to pick a great non-biblical leader, who would you choose and why?
Mm. You know, the great biblical leader that comes to my mind is the guy that was my youth pastor growing up and ended up marrying my wife and I. His name is Rolf Kleinfeld. And I think because he in my life better than anyone else conveyed truth with love. You know, we often talk about how it's important to stand on biblical truth, but it also is important to communicate it in love. And, obviously, I feel like we're going through another time of polarization right now, after Charlie Kirk and all that, um, where where it just feels like people are arguing so much they're not able to hear each other, because the missing ingredient all too often is that love component. But Rolf, walked that out, still walks it out today. So I really have a lot of respect for him, and he continues to be someone as a pastor who I seek to be like as I walk out my ministry. Um, Non-biblical leader. My mind goes the political direction, which might get me in trouble depending on your professor. I'm not sure, but no, honestly, I'll say in the wake of Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, I think is a great. Not that he's non-biblical completely, but just to see what he accomplished, what he built in the years that he had, being killed at 31. Um, there are just few examples like that. And one of the things that not trying to get political, but one of the things that I always respected about him was that everything that he claimed he believed politically, he had done the hard work to think out, to know what the biblical foundational, the faith foundation of those political principles were. And me personally, I feel like we've done a disservice in recent years by how much we've tried to keep those two things disconnected. Um, that's my opinion. Some of our pastors disagree with me on that, and I totally understand. But yeah.
So that concludes my interview with Pastor Ryan Scott. Um, I've been able to take away quite a few things from this interview, things that I knew, things that I didn't know, and things that I will definitely use in my leadership role in ministry in the future. Um, he's a great resource to reach out to, and I know that um, as I further um, my leadership role in ministry, that he'll definitely be one of the ones that I'll reach out to for guidance and help in anything that I may have. Thank you for your time.